Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Brook Shepard. Hi, Brook.
Hello, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm very happy that you are a guest on this podcast. We're going to have a great conversation about systems and data and basically helping how we help businesses, which is great. Always a good topic of conversation. So first of all, let's start with your bio and who you are so our listeners know. So you are a data enthusiast, which we're going to talk about. What does it mean to be a data enthusiast? And with a designer's touch. And you're the founder of Mason Interactive. For over a decade, you guided clients across industries from e-commerce giants to healthcare providers, harnessing data insights to craft impactful marketing strategies. That's pretty cool. So basically, you're using data in order for people to help them make the right decisions so they will have the right market strategy.
We try.
That's very good. What got you into it?
I started Mason Interactive 17 years ago because I'd had a career before that was in advertising and strictly performance-based, numbers-based, data-based advertising. And I was working at an agency that I really liked, where I felt valued by my manager. I liked my clients. I liked my colleagues. I could have made a little more money. I could have been a little more heard, but I really liked that job a lot. I felt pretty satisfied. And new ownership came in and fired all the top people. And I was one of the top people. So then I thought to myself at the time, well, I don't want to work at another agency. I've already done that. And I got a job at a tech product company. And I was miserable at it. And it wasn't a good cultural fit. And I thought, well, what else can I do? I thought maybe I should start my own agency. I know how to do that. And my wife was very supportive. And I had some co-founders that backed me. And I started the agency because it was the best thing I could do for my career and the thing I enjoyed doing. And I was, 33 or 34 or something at the time when I started it.
Nice. And what lessons did you learn from that? Like in terms
of so many.
Well, so many, but here's the question. I can relate. I mean, I started my own company, this company in 2011, and we obviously went through some iterations. And when I started it, I was a general business consultant, very good strategist. I had clients, I helped them, but then I found that niche that people are really, I tell them, you have to document your processes and procedures, and they will go, yes, week after week. And I'm like, that's it. How about if I help you do that? And they go like, can you? Oh, really? So that's how we became very specialized in process documentation. I mean, do you have a similar story in terms of like you figured out that something is missing and that's why you are more specialized in data?
Well, the data drives all the decisions because of our background. And we're not really, we sort of outgrown being a performance marketing agency. It's still the core of what we do, but we've added on to it because the world is changing. And if you're just being that, you're going to be left behind. But data drives every decision we make, both internally for processes that we can all get better at, and when we're talking to clients about how to grow their businesses. There's almost always a data or analytics underlying truth to why a business is or isn't growing. And it's, I'll give you an example. I'm going to talk about a client. I'm not going to name who they are. I won't give any hints as to who they are, but they're a new-ish brand that's raised a little bit of venture capital money. A couple of years ago, they had the biggest year ever. They did $3 million that year. In that year, they had an average of about 4,000 people a month searching for their brand name, their product name on the internet, okay? Higher in some months, lower in others. It was about 4,000 a month, and they did about $3 million in sales. Last year, they did about $1.5 million in sales. That's about half of $3 million. And wouldn't you know it, they had half as many searches on their brand last year as they did when they had their $3 million year. So instead of 4,000 searches a month, they actually had closer to 1,900 searches a month. That was an unlocked, that's not a super sophisticated data point, but it is something that wasn't what they were looking at. And when we talked to them about it, we were able to open their eyes and say that the solution is, honestly, you need more people to know who you are so that they can Google you, because that's how you're going to make money, is people Googling your brand name. So that was that's sort of a basic example, but that finding a way to talk about that narrative with the client in a way that makes them understand they need to invest a little bit and not just try to be as efficient as possible to grow their business was an unlock for them.
Absolutely. So what kind of data do you think businesses need in order to make the right decisions?
Well, we kind of have to, we have about 60 clients, and they're largely clustered, not entirely. They're largely in two verticals. One is higher ed, so people that need universities and colleges that need more master's candidates to apply to their PhD programs. And the other are what we call emerging direct-to-consumer brands. And some of them are big. Like we work with Casio, we work with Marimekko, we work with Italy, and we work with all these big multinationals. And some of them are small. Some of them are founder-led startups. And they need to look at different pieces of data. For the what I'm going to call the D2Cs, the number one thing I think they need to look at is the value of a new customer as opposed to just their ROAS or their blended ROI for a business. I don't know if that tracks or not, but it's a really important thing to understand. I think it's a huge unlock for people if they can get that data. And I'll give you an example. Generally, a client will say, especially in the last couple of years, correlating to higher interest rates, we hear that we want to be as efficient as possible. Mm-hmm. And efficient is usually defined, if you're a CFO, by ROAS or ROI or marketing efficiency ratio. Or that's usually what you mean is the lowest cost per new dollar in.
So the ROAS are return on ads.
Return on ad spend, yes. And so if you look at that, what you're going to do, if you're going to focus relentlessly on ROAS to be as efficient as possible, what you're going to do, and anyone in my position is going to do, is to focus on selling products to existing customers. And that's not globally true for every kind of company, because some companies maybe you only buy a car every 5 years, or maybe you only buy luggage every 10 years. But generally speaking, the way to be as efficient as possible is to sell something to an existing customer, because they already know who you are, and you can send them an email and you can remarket to them, and you can say, we have a new colorway, we have a new size, we have a new style, now it's waterproof. And that's how you become as efficient as possible. What you're missing in that enterprise, I don't mean you, what one is missing in that enterprise, in that view, is the value of a new customer. What they're looking at is how to be as efficient as possible. But if you're only selling to people who already know who you are, you're going to stop growing your business, because you're not introducing yourself to new people in the same way you were when you were growing. So having a clear understanding of the value of and most people will tell you they know these things, but they don't necessarily. Having a clear understanding of the value of a new customer versus an existing customer is like a super key piece of data. Another way to frame that is, if I'm a luxury suit maker and I sell $6,000 suits, and my average customer buys 2 suits. Some people buy 20 suits, some people buy 1 suit, some people just buy a tie. But my average customer buys 2 suits. If I'm remarketing for the lowest cost per order, the highest return on ad spend, the most efficiency to existing customers, by definition, I only have 1 more suit to sell. They've already bought 1, the average person buys 2, you can buy 1 more. If I go after a new customer, it might cost more to get that new customer, and it might look less efficient. The ROAS might be worse, but you're going to have more revenue in the future, because that person by definition has 2 suits to buy from you. And getting a talk track around that you can talk to people about is a lot of what I do.
That's very interesting. So how do you get people's awareness that they need to do that in order to actually have effective marketing?
One of the things we're doing now with data is talking about custom media mixes for people that are defined by data science. Because if you talk to a client and you say, almost all of our clients have budgets for the year already laid out and what they want to do. Sometimes it's by day, sometimes it's by month, sometimes it's by quarter. They all know what their sales goal is for the year and what their spend goal is for the year. People have that, mostly they have that budgeted out. What they don't have that broken out into is new customers versus existing customers. And so we're working with it. We have a data scientist on staff as a retainer, a tenured statistics professor at an Ivy League university, who helps us look at data with clients and really do a deep dive and see what the value is of different cohorts of customers are in a way that's we're not just relying on a cookie cutter model from some off the shelf software. We're actually doing a serious deep dive and looking at it. But you need a committed client to do that, right? Because a lot of clients want to come in and what they want is the quick fix or the growth hack or the thing they read about on Twitter or X.com and the false promises of the magic button that'll magically increase their business. And we're saying is, I've been doing this a long time. There's no magic button. What we have to do is understand your business in a serious way. And that's going to take time, and time is going to take money. And we need to really focus on it and think about it. So that's I hope that answered your question. I got a little off topic there, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, that's part of like telling people like that they need to know. That's very good. Now, our listeners that are entrepreneurs, fast growing companies, lacking consistency, where should they start if they want to analyze the effectiveness of their marketing?
I think, well, if they're using Shopify, if they're an e-commerce company, they're going to see it in Shopify. If they're a school, they're going to see it in Slate or some other CRM. I think the main thing is the attitude shift about if you're judging. I have a client who's a school, and they said, turn off all the Instagram ads. They're not driving revenue for us. They're not driving new enrollments for us. It's only Google that's driving enrollments for us. And I said, I don't really think you should turn off Instagram. I don't think that's what it's for. And I didn't say it quite like that, but I said, I don't think you should turn off Instagram. It's not what it's for. And they turned off Instagram anyway, made us turn it off. And what happened was everyone looked really smart for a few months because we weren't spending money on Instagram that wasn't turning into new students. But eventually the new students began to dry up because you can't Google something unless you know what it is, right? You can't Google a degree to apply to it unless you know what it is. And the way you know what things are is by seeing them in places like Instagram and TV and radio and things like that. And I think that judging, in that case, judging Instagram for how many students it caused to enroll in your program is like judging a fish for how fast it climbed up a tree. Like I don't think you shouldn't be judging the fish for that. You should be judging the squirrel for how fast it climbed up the tree. The fish we should see how far and how fast it's going downstream, right? So looking at the different media sources as having different goals for your business. Not everything is a closer. Some things are a door opener, and understanding that that's the world we live in, which, by the way, was not the world we lived in 8 years ago. 8 years ago, Instagram as an advertising vehicle could get you new customers and have a better ROI. But that was a different economic time and a different set of financial circumstances with a different software running with different data privacy rules. So opening people's eyes, if you're just starting out, to say, what is my strategy to get new customers in the door has to be different than my strategy to close those customers. And maybe Google does one and Meta does the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brook, what's your take on AI? How did AI influence your business, and how did it influence also not just your business, but also the perspective of your clients of the business and what you can do for them?
I think that this is going to sound snotty. I think the general public might not be aware of how much AI has already been used in advertising platforms for many years now. So we've been using it for a long time. We're all heavy Claude and heavy ChatGPT and heavy Gemini users here. The easy things are it makes us able to produce more content more quickly. What it doesn't do is give anyone taste. What it doesn't do is give anyone judgment and give anyone the ability to come up with a great idea. But some great things it can do that we couldn't do beforehand are we could analyze data sets across many clients, across our 60-something clients and the $1 billion of advertising we've driven for clients. We can look at big data sets and see, for example, do flat lay product shots work better than model shots for different parts of the sales funnel? And let us look at things like that across the portfolio. So that's been very helpful. Clients' perspective on it's really interesting. I honestly think a lot of clients think that they can do a lot of, and maybe they think they can do a lot of the stuff that we do with AI, but we'll often have clients that'll come to us and they'll say things like, well, I thought I was going to replace you with this robot, but I tried it, and here's what it came up with, and it'll be some janky piece of creative that doesn't flow right. So you still need to know how to use these things. But some clients demand that we use AI, and some clients actually demand that we don't use AI. So the clients get to decide that. Some clients are like, no, you may not use that for any content. And some clients say, why wouldn't you? It's crazy not to.
Yeah, it's interesting. How do you react to that?
My job is not, I say this a lot, my job is not to do what the clients ask. My job is to give my clients my best advice and then do what they ask.
Correct. So what would be your best advice if somebody says don't use AI?
it depends on the context. If they said I don't want to use, I would. Clients do say it. The honest answer is, if the client says, "I'm not paying you to write content that's generated by AI, don't use it." My honest answer is, "Okay." Like if you don't want us to use it, that's great. The output will be slower. Maybe we should realize that all of your competitors are using AI, and we're not competing against a moral certitude. We're competing against other schools. So, and they're all using AI to produce content. But if you don't want me to, that's fine.
Yeah, totally. What would be some advice in terms of, like, because there's so much controversy about it, in terms of should we use AI for content, not use AI for content? I have those discussions with people on my
Right.
podcast. How do you resolve it in terms of, like, what are the boundaries that you put for yourself or for the team in terms of the originality versus using a robot?
Well, I think the first thing is, in my position as an advertising agency, I'm not competing against AI. I'm competing against other advertising agencies that are using AI. So I have
Right.
to use it, right? But and we all use it heavily, and we use it for creative, and we use it for ad copy. But a person has to have the taste at the end of the day to look it over and
Yeah.
summarize it. At the very least, I'm sure you do this too. We write monthly newsletters. At the very least, chat has to look at my newsletters and say, "There's no spelling mistakes. This sentence flows right." But I still think you can tell if something's completely AI, robot, hot
You
goss.
absolutely can. Well, first of all, you have, the M dashes and the bolding of of this, the sentences in the middle of the sentence. You go like, why did you bold that? Nobody, I never wrote sentences with bolding, right? So I understand that. But I do think the way that I recognize the AI, and that's what I do, we use AI heavily as well. But you can see, like, when I read a piece, something, and I go, I did not write it. That's not me. As opposed to, we have, like, the branding of our voice. We use AI to do that, but we identify our voice very specifically. So then we are writing everything within that voice. We have the way that we express ourselves and ideas. For me, when I write articles, the ideas um, have to come from us. Like, it's basically, I ask the AI to interview us. Sometimes if we get stuck, I was like, okay, well, help me out. Like, what would be some examples? But that's my personal preference. I mean, I'm not
Right.
saying it's right or wrong. My personal preference is that the AI will interview me, then I can get out all the information, and then I have it, but it's still my original thought. And even if I go, well, you know what, this is a good question, I give me some ideas. So here is da 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 da, and then I decide. So the decision and the concept is still mine. And that's what I found, that I can write in the most authentic and way that is not necessarily generated by a machine. It's still written, but not generated. Like, the ideas are still mine. So it's basically like this co-writing and
I agree. I agree. I didn't do this for our newsletters, but if I have to write off the top of my head, if I have to write a long blog post or a long letter or an RFP, if I have to do a long thing, what I'll often do is voice type into a Google document, stream of consciousness, and then say to the robots, please make this coherent. And that is a great start. Then, like, it's my ideas, it's my phrasing, it's my content,
Yeah.
but it's me speaking off the cuff, and the robots will have to thank the
Yeah.
robots, but they'll tighten right up for us. But so yeah, we use it for every place we can, because if we don't, we're at a competitive disadvantage. The systems and advertising platforms that we're buying ads in are using it for leveraging things like lookalikes and audience behavior and things like that. So we have to be leveraging all those things at best in class.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's the world we live in, So there's really
Absolutely.
nothing wrong in it. It's just that, it's really how you use it, and how much you keep in the process of the creative and the taste, as you said, still that's what is going to basically be your signature on it.
Right. One way it's actually affecting businesses in a serious way. We had a big seminar today about this. Our SEO director, Jenna, who I've had the pleasure of working with for 16 years or something, was led a company-wide training about this morning. Generally speaking, most industries and verticals in 2025, generally, not everyone, mostly saw fewer clicks and impressions and traffic from Google than they did in 2024. Generally
Hmm.
speaking, there was a decline. And not a huge one. But sales and leads and conversions and enrollments necessarily weren't down from organic traffic. And our thesis is, and we can document this with some different studies, is that people are going to Chat or Claude or wherever first. I think mostly it's ChatGPT, going there first to do research. So they've narrowed down the consideration set. So when they come to Google to search, maybe they used Google before to find 5 different schools to apply to. Maybe now they're using Chat to find 2. So there's fewer clicks in market, but the people that come to the website are converting generally at a higher rate. And so sales,
I mean, I do
leads,
that too.
enrollments,
I'm sure you do as well, because I then I can say compare between, and those are the things that are important to me, and then make a comparison, and then it does, and it, of course, it also compliments me that I'm like really know how to decide and look at things, and feel
great point. That's a great instinct you have.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's now analyze it. Yeah, for sure. Ready when you are. No problem.
About listening to a bunch of your episodes, thinking about process, I want to stress something and maybe you and I can talk offline about this too. But like the way I clean my house, right, is my apartment is on Sunday morning, I put on some Rolling Stones records really loud. And I have a system which involves vertical surfaces first, horizontal surfaces next. And I won't go all the details, but I have a system for doing it. And I know that if I do that, I'm better than trying to just tackle the whole thing at once. It's this. And so we have for many years at Mason, and we still have a process for optimizing accounts. And what I'm not expecting someone new and just out of college to do is to be a genius at running Google Ads accounts. What I am expecting them to do is to follow the process that we put in place, which is you do this on Monday. You do this on Tuesday. This is the thing you do on Wednesdays. If you have to do one of these things on a different day because the client demanded it or you have a great idea, that's cool. But in the absence of an idea like that or an instruction like that, if your manager doesn't tell you what to do, the process is you still do these things on these days. And trying to drill that in, I'll be honest with you, it's a challenge. It's a continual challenge. We have a lot of remote people. We have 2 offices. And I think we're okay at it. But and I think we're better at it than most people in our space. But we have a lot of challenges doing that in a remote space of saying to someone, this is what you do on Monday. This is what you do on Tuesday. This is what you do on Wednesday. And making sure that's a process that everyone can follow, that's documented. It's printed out on pieces of paper on the desks out there. No one's in the office today. We're taping this on a Thursday afternoon. But the days people are in the office, they can't avoid it. All the process is literally stapled to the table in front of them. And it's tricky stuff to do to get everyone to believe in that process in the same way.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is like the followed by all is the most important thing of every process. And that's why in our process, when we do it, it's like we document, we optimize. But the last step, which I think is the most important one, is to make sure that all those processes are actually being followed. And it's getting the buy-in, because you said a word there, believe, it's getting the buy-in from everyone that why is it important, and finding the why and how to actually follow it and creating a culture of following it is extremely important.
It's very tricky. One of the things we did a reorganization towards the end of last year to try to address some of these things. And mostly it's been a success, knock on wood. The analogy I always use is I watch a lot of Premier League soccer, football, and with my son, and I love it, and I think it's the best, most technically advanced league for that sport, which I think is the best sport in the world. But what I try to talk to the staff about is sometimes the coach will be yelling, the manager will be yelling at Cole Palmer for Chelsea to do a specific thing. Go after that guy. But in the absence of manager instruction, the team still knows what to do. They're still in a formation, moving up the pitch in a specific tempo. There's 4 guys here. There's 3 guys here. They know what they're supposed to do. It doesn't mean that there's not opportunity for freelancing and creative thought. It doesn't mean that the manager won't sometimes change things. But in the absence of that, there's a corporate culture in that soccer team and that football team of knowing that this is the way they move the ball down the field. And I repeat that a lot. And we try to really drive that home and talk about that being the right process. I have a lot to learn there, but that's the way we try to think about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brook, if our listeners would like to reach out to you because they need your help, because they want to know more, they want to talk to you, how can they do that?
Thank you. They can go to masoninteractive.com. Masoninteractive.com is our website. Any form on there, I will get it, be CC'd in a copy of. Or you can go to LinkedIn, look for Brook Llewellyn Shepard, I guess just Brook Shepard, and follow me there. I see all those messages too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And I think we had a really lively and good conversation about topics that entrepreneurs are very interested in. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.